Okay, so today we're going to be talking about blended learning. And I want to start by saying that this is not necessarily one tech tool that we're going to be talking about during this session. Blended learning is a method of teaching and a thought process for how you're going to be preparing what you're sharing with students. So it's an educational model. It's not one tool that you might be using. So what is blended learning? Blended learning is a combination of face-to-face teaching and also online instruction. Blending learning is not a completely online course. So if you ever took an online course through college or something else, it is not completely online. And it's also not a tech-rich environment where students are one-to-one, but you're solely in the classroom. Blended learning is really that combination of face-to-face and online instruction. There's a lot of hot terms in education right now, blended learning being one of them. And here are a couple other ones that you've probably heard said the past couple of weeks or maybe even months. So we can talk about asynchronous learning, and that is when students are learning the same material at different times and locations. Very similar to when we were remote learning and maybe you would share something with your students, but they wouldn't necessarily all be sitting down at 10 o'clock doing reading. Some students would be doing it at 9 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and so forth. We also have synchronous learning, which is when you are learning at the same time. Now, this can be in person, right? So if students are in a classroom and you're teaching them reading at 10 o'clock, they're all learning at the same time. This could also be if you are hosting a live session similar to right now, right? We are all learning the same material, even though we're learning it remotely. And then there's the term flipped classroom, which is a type of blended learning. So specifically in a flipped classroom, you have students watch or learn the materials at home, and then they come and ask questions or collaborate while at school. So instead of teaching the material during the school day and then sending them home to practice, what you do in a flipped classroom is you send them home with instruction, and then in the classroom is where they practice and dig in, whether it's one-on-one with you or with other students. So the benefits of blended learning is it's self-paced, and that allows for high-achieving students to move forward without having to wait for students who need more time. And you also are not forcing students who need additional support to move forward. We were kind of forced into this situation with COVID, but there really are a lot of benefits to having a blended instruction. Some components of blended learning, we have that face-to-face. Obviously, we didn't have that piece per se this spring unless you did host live Zoom sessions, although that's technically a gray area. And in true blended learning, you would actually be in the same room with someone. So that face-to-face is really where you're allowing students to have conversations with each other, to collaborate. Maybe you have small group instruction or intervention time, and then you're also reteaching. In the virtual aspect of blended learning, the components are it's self-paced. There's a lot of independent practice and student choice. And that student choice can be not only the assignments that they're doing, but it also that choice of when are they completing it, where are they completing it, right? Are they, sitting in their room? Are they outside? Is it at night? Is it at the morning? What works best for them as a learner? So some components of blended learning. When we're talking about blended learning, it's really important to make sure that you give clear guidelines and pacing for your students. This is so that when they are at home, they know exactly what they should be doing to continue to move on and grow. You want to make sure that you give them the bare minimum that they need to complete, and then give a date that needs to be completed by. Now, obviously, you're going to want to allow some flexibility. So you might not say, okay, well, this assignment 1 you have to do on Monday, and assignment 2 you have to do on Tuesday. But instead, you might say, okay, assignments 1 through 5 can be completed during this week. And in regards to that, also, you're going to want to provide materials for those high achievers. A great way to do that is to say, okay, everybody must do this, but then you also have these may do's. So that if you complete all your work and you really want to learn more, you want to extend yourself, you may do these additional items. Other components of blended learning is obviously those video lessons, right? So you are going to be providing instruction for students to watch and or rewatch. That's another great thing about blended learning. Another positive is that students have that clip of you teaching the material that they can rewatch as many times as needed. It's also very important to make sure that you have pre and post assessments. You want to gather that information to help plan your instruction. And that's really critical because you want to make sure that even though you're not spending all the time one-to-one, face-to-face, that you are gathering that data so that you can move forward. Now, when we're talking about how to organize all this information, I suggest picking one platform. Right, so even though you might be pulling an article from one website or a video from YouTube, you want to streamline that for your students so they're not finding everything. And that's where those learning management platforms come in handy, like Seesaw, Google Classroom, or PowerSchool. And then the last component of blended learning is you want to make sure that you're regularly checking in with your students. You want them to know that you know what they've already completed and what they still need to complete, and also encourage them so that they can complete the tasks by the deadline that you give them. And some blended learning platforms will even suggest that you make public where people are, whether the students are on track, ahead of track, or behind track, but that would be up to you. Now, this is kind of the biggie, right? So if you are going to be recording your lessons and sharing it with your students, how can you get that perfect video? So here are just 5 tips. The first one is you're going to want to use a screen recording software. That's the easiest because if you are showing them an online platform, they can see it while you're using it. If it's just going to be your face, that's okay too. But there are 2 options. There's Loom and Screencastify. As a district, we recommend you use Loom. We had 2 trainings earlier today on how to use Loom, and you're more than welcome to watch those. Screencastify, a lot of people are very familiar with it, but you are limited if you have the free version. And if you don't want to pay for the pro version, just use Loom because you can get that free as an educator. If you are using Google Slides while you are creating a video, which is great to show material, make sure they're not text heavy like my slides are right now, and make sure that they are clean and engaging. So picking some cool templates that gives a nice feel to it, but aren't distracting the students. Not super bright colors or a lot of things going on. The other thing that they recommend doing is keep your videos short. So even if you have to record more than one video for a math lesson, so maybe your math lesson, you're talking about multiplication strategies, and you have the array, and you have the traditional style, you might need to record a video for each of those methods because studies have found that when students are watching a video, they lose attention after 6 minutes. So 6 minutes is kind of that sweet spot. You record short videos for them to watch, and even if they have to click through multiple ones, that's better than having a 20-minute video for them to watch later. The last 2 is when you're recording your videos, be careful about including specific dates or student names. This is only for your benefit, because if you want to use the exact same video 3 years from now and you're referencing a student that's currently in your class, it's not going to be relevant for your kids. Or if you're talking about a specific date, maybe you're mentioning Halloween because you're teaching this lesson around October, but then in 2 years you kind of switch up your order of teaching and now it's December. It's not going to really be applicable, and you might have to record some of those videos. And the last one, and this might be the hardest for some of you, is it's highly recommended that the videos are of you teaching. There is a lot of great resources out there, Khan Academy, YouTube, where there are videos explaining the material by someone else. But studies show that as a student, it's nice to have that one teacher connection. So as much as you can, I know it's additional work, but it's really great if you can be the voice of at least most of your videos. Now, obviously, sometimes life happens and maybe you find something that's, better than you could even think to do it, and that's fine, but really try to record your own videos. Okay, so now while you're here, how might this look while I'm teaching summer school? So obviously in summer school, we're completely online. So we're not going to have a true blended learning environment, but there are some things that we can do to kind of mimic it so that it works well for your students. So that face-to-face option, that would be using a live video conferencing using Google Meet. So maybe you once a week or every other day or every day, depending on what you want to do, you give students an opportunity to jump on a Google Meet, either small group, whole group, and have a conversation. That's as close as we're going to get to one-to-one, person to person during this time. But that is crucial, and it's nice to be able to have those discussions with other people, and the students really, really need that as well. For the virtual aspect of it, you can do the pre-recorded video lessons, you can find instructional videos on the web, and then it would also be a combination of those online platforms. So if you're teaching reading, are you going to be using Epic, or are you going to be using Newsela, or any of those platforms that have books for students to read? Same thing for math. Are you going to be using Mathseeds? Those are those online learning platforms. And then again, picking one platform to kind of push everything out, whether that's Seesaw, Google Classroom, or PowerSchool. Okay, so here's an example, and Sarah did a great session on choice boards earlier this week on Monday. So if you didn't watch that one, I highly recommend you check it out, because choice boards are a great way to organize for your students the plan for the week. And it's a lot of work on the front end for you as a teacher, but then the rest of the week is going to run very smoothly. So here's an example, and this is just a template that I have, and it is linked in multiple places, which we can talk about in a second. But you'll notice that if I was maybe doing a summer school class, Fun with Science, okay, this is the week of June 22nd to the 25th. And now, summer school doesn't take place on Friday, so I probably should have deleted that icon, which I could have done. But you'll notice that as a student then, when I am using this, and again, this is just a Google slide, when I click on Activity 1 for Monday, it automatically links it to my the Google slide that has the activity for that day. You'll notice that I included a short video reading the instructions, so bear with me. Hi class, today read the article on what causes lightning. Click the link to view the article on Newsela. Let me know if you have any questions. So just having like a short video clip of you reading the instructions is really great. It gets that face-to-face time with your students. Then you'll notice that I have the assignment listed. I can click here, and this takes them right to Newsela or Newsela, however you like to say it, and it has the article that they would then read. When I go back, let me get back in my full screen mode. Um, I also have the option as a student. You notice that this is a must do. So I know that that's something I have to complete. I can click the home icon, and this is all using slide linking in Google Slides. Again, this is a template that was already created, so you could take this and run with it. But when I click the home, it brings me back to this page. And then I can click on to the next assignment, Monday number 2. Here's a different assignment that I have. I want them to play a Kahoot. Everything's linked in here. And then I can click home. You'll notice then for my third activity, this is a may do, and I didn't actually put anything in, but this is what the template would look like if you were to use something like this, and it gives you some suggestions. And that again is slide linked for every day. So if you push this out Monday morning or even Sunday night, I could go to any of these activities and see what it is as a student. Okay, I'm going to get out of these because there is a lot of them. So okay, so what are some tech resources that you can use to help create this blended learning environment? Well, like I mentioned, the first thing is going to be finding a video recording platform that you really like and is easy to use. Again, we suggest Loom, but if you are a heavy Screencastify user, please feel free to continue to do that. Just know there might be limitations. There's also some great options for you out there. One is Edpuzzle and another is Insert Learning. And this might not be something that you're ready to do maybe the first week of summer school, but if you are someone who's going to be teaching a longer period of time during the summer, I would suggest maybe looking into this once you get comfortable with some of the basics. Edpuzzle is a platform that allows you to insert questions into videos. Whether it's a video that you find on YouTube or a video that you create yourself, what it does is students will watch it, and then at certain parts in the video, you can pick and stop and ask them a question. And then they have to complete that question before it moves on. It is a freemium, which means that you are limited in the free version, but it would definitely still be able to be used for summer school or even in the fall. Another one is Insert Learning. This is a platform that allows you to take any website with text on it and insert questions as well. And then you as a teacher get to see what they responded to for those questions. Again, that's a freemium, so you get, I believe you get like 10 assignments with the free version, and then you would have to delete some of your assignments if you wanted to do more than 10. You can't build up like a library bank, but that's the only downside. Also remember you have your Google Suite, which is available to you as a Google for Education member. You have a lot of great things on there, like docs and slides and Google Forms, right? So if you need to create a pre and post assessment, Google Forms is already there for you. And then also Classroom and Meet. Our department has also worked really hard this summer to put together our instructional technology website. On that website, there's resources for you as a teacher. There's also resources for students. So if your students are having difficulty getting onto their Chromebook or accessing something, we have video tutorials for them. And then we also have tutorials for parents. So I highly recommend that as well. And then the last thing that I have, and I will share this link with everybody before you leave. So stay on for a little bit longer. These are all of the slide templates that you can have access to and create your own copy. And where we got these from is actually Slides Mania and Slides Carnival. And those are also linked there as well. So if you have some time to play around, I recommend checking them out because there's a lot of great templates out there already created so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Okay, if blended learning is something that is really intriguing to you and interesting, there's a couple opportunities. The first one is there's actually CESA 7 is putting on a session on July 21st. You do have to pay to attend that session. I think it's $50, and it is limited to a certain number of participants. So the link is there if you want more information, but that's an option. There's also this Modern Classrooms course. It is completely free, and it walks you through 18 lessons. It talks about blended learning, how you can really create a blended learning environment, and the positives of that. And they go way more in depth than I did today. So if it's something you're interested in, I highly recommend it, especially because it's free. Okay, I'm going to pause the recording, get some names down so I can share this directly with you, and then we'll spend the last 10 minutes if you have any questions.